Hello there, guys! Welcome back. My name is Lex. If you're new, well, welcome to the channel, my friends. Say hello down below. Alright, we're gonna talk about some cool fall, autumn read for 2022. Times are changing, leaves are falling down. It's some kind of rebirth, reflection mood. That brownish color just... This is gonna be a reflective mood read list. If you're into that kind of stuff, this is your video. I think you're gonna enjoy this video. So if not, well, I've got more videos for you. Go watch all of them. The first book I want to recommend to you guys is The Trial by Franz Kafka. Why? Well, it's freaking weird. I mean, some guy ends up being thrown into a weird trial where everyone seems to know that he's committed some sort of crime without him even knowing about it. You know, he gets a notice one day, hey, you need to go to trial for this thing you did, but they never tell him what it is. So this guy just ends up like overthinking things and just trying to prove his innocence without even knowing what he did wrong. Interesting, right? Yes, and everyone seems to be in on it, and everyone seems to be in on it, but him. This is a cool story to reflect on how we can just go through life adding imaginary stories or looking for things that don't even make sense, that we just get caught in them. And everyone seems to be in on this story. Kafka does a great job of just catching my attention, luring me into this story, getting really deep tension in, some kind of mystery of knowing what did this guy do? What's happening to him? How is this weird story developing in a bizarre way? It's interesting, right? Second story, The Stranger by Albert Camus. I don't even know how you spell that. These two guys are really, in my opinion, they really resemble each other. I think Kafka was first and then Camus was next, and he might be inspired by Kafka, just seems to me. The story of The Stranger is about this guy who is just living his life, you know, and trying to get along with everything that happens, just settling in, trying to do the best that he can, when he just commits a murder out of nowhere without even really wanting to kill the other guy or trying to get vengeance. He just gets dragged by the moment and he kills the other guy and he gets thrown into jail. So it's this like weird deconstruction of trying to figure out why he did it, why he's on trial, and what's happening to him, and everyone just trying to fight his life for him during trial, and this guy just trying to go along with life and trying to accept the consequences of his own actions and death itself. It's interesting. These books just get me thinking about things that I didn't know I wanted to think about. It's weird, you know, like death and why are we here? What are we supposed to do? Not why are we here, that's too esoteric, because I like to think of like meaning as something that we attribute to life, not something inherent of life in itself. But it gets me asking some bizarre questions, you know, and my mind just dribbles off, wanders off into these weird threads that I really enjoy, and the characters seem to resonate because I've been through those stages, you know, like what the fuck am I doing here? I'm just gonna go along with whatever happens. I'm not really fulfilled, but whatever, fuck it. And I'm too anxious about trying to get everything into control and trying to prove my innocence and that I'm cool or whatever it is. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just rambling, whatever comes to mind. So, yeah, that's really interesting. We're all about that, trying to reflect autumn mood, leaves falling, yellowish style, you know, yellow brick road. You might enjoy it. We go to the third book, Siddhartha, right? Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, my boy, my German boy. This is a really interesting story about a Brahmite prince who basically has everything in his life but freedom. So he wants to know what is out there. He wants to escape his ordinary, filled with royalties world, and then goes out to explore and sees that life is filled with disease and death and poverty and many things that he didn't know about. So he tries to figure out what it all means, right? He tries to figure out what the best way to live life is and how to obliterate suffering, or trying to make meaning of all this suffering that seems to be part and inherent of the world. So he starts up living as a monk and then living as I forgot the word. Someone who sails, someone who drives boats. A sailor? No, his work is basically just crossing people from one side of the river to the other. That's what he does. But he ends up learning about life from monks, from ordinary people, from the Buddha himself, from enlightened ones, and he ends up learning that life, well, it just is, right? There's no dogma or right way. You just need to do your best, but maybe you don't need as much as you think you did, right? Materially speaking. It's interesting. These stories that go from like a hero's journey of enlightenment or self-discovery, they're really interesting, and this is a short book. I think you would enjoy it. Then we move on to a more modern-ishy story, Stranger in a Strangeland, from one of the sci-fi fathers. Next in line with Clarke and Asimov, we get to Robert Heinlein with his book, Stranger in a Strangeland. One of the classics. I mean, that book is awesome. It's about this human that was born in Mars. On Mars. Please correct me, guys. Yes, this human that is basically born on Mars, raised by Martians, and then gets hauled back to Earth. So it's interesting to see how a human without the usual storytelling or myths or culture that we have is basically a Martian, He doesn't know anything about our cultures. He speaks Martian. He has some crazy powers, and he doesn't understand us at all. He's like, you guys are funny creatures. Why does everyone want so much wealth or so much power and this and that? And he basically starts learning our way of life and starts mingling with it and trying his best to deal with our weird struggles for external things. He gets caught up in them and learns about it and tries to communicate what he has known in Mars for his whole life to make sense of what he sees on Earth. So it's really interesting, right? Imagine that. What would happen to us if we were born in some isolated place and never knew anybody, no culture, no taboos, no social conditioning, were thrown out into civilization? How would we deal with that? It's interesting, right? What happens with our conditioning or this interesting way of life? And it's sci-fi because, we've got spaceships, aliens, technology in there. It's a really cool story. Interesting plot. Interesting development from Mike Valentine, the alien, and how he starts changing up the world and finds that, any one of us, this is what the book deals about. Some, open love, ideologies, religion. It's got a little bit of that in there. I don't want to spoil it all, but it's really interesting. It's you questioning, what is God? Is it in you? Is it in me? Is it in church? Does it exist? What happens? Thou art God. Is it possible that we can all grow and have this inherent God nature in us, and that is part of us, and we're part of some bigger power, bigger cosmos, bigger plan? What is it all? I mean, I'm just trying to convey what I got from the book. Read it. You might get something entirely different. It's a great adventure. You're going to enjoy it. Heinlein, a master. That is my fall recommendation for this 2022. I really enjoyed these books. I hope they get you into some reflective mood, help you out, help you, come to terms with some of this that we call life. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Your friend Lex here to just chill out. Have a good time. Have a great day. Peace out.